Hi guys, today I'm going to be talking about Africa's comfort zone mentality. There's a raging comfort zone mindset that is actually ravaging most of the African countries today, which I see the more I read, the more I understand and try to decode the problems or the root causes of the problems of many African states today in their post-colonial essence. And I see there's an echoing from the story of Moses as he goes to lead Israel from Egypt, under which they encountered this oppression to which they cried out, you see, and they actually wanted to be free. You know, they actually longed to be free, but when they encountered the reality of freedom, they longed to go back to Egypt. You see, there's a part of the story that says that the king of Egypt died, but the people of Israel sighed. In other words, even at the death of the king or the colonial master, if we would put it in Africa, so to speak, the system of bondage, the system of oppression actually remained in existence, to which the people still cried further. But then it's more interesting when you see that even after Moses leads the people out of their bondage, Egypt is not the necessarily replica of the nation in itself, but Egypt represents a system. Most of the stories you hear in the Bible or you read when you study the Bible are actually histories of systems, you know, systems of organization, so to speak. And so Egypt was actually that system of oppression which actually oppresses every individual on the surface of the earth today. And you know, it says that they were oppressed for 400 years, actually 430 years before they were set free. But on encountering the reality of freedom in itself, what really freedom entails, they wished to go back to their oppression, to their comfort zone, to the mindset that actually stayed back to actually receive, even though in the midst of oppression, to receive, you know, from the oppressors, so to speak, that comfort environment, that environment of comfort to which you don't have to fight to attain anything of yours, but you just continuously receive what you're given. And I think that's really interesting, because when I see the Moseses of Africa who actually erupted, especially in the 1960s, and really found out that the people of Africa actually needed to be free, they were deceived in thinking that the freedom was actually from the colonial masters themselves. No, the real freedom actually occurs in the mind. The real freedom actually is a freedom from the comfort zone mindset. It's a comfort zone mentality that is actually enslaving the people. When the people are ready to be free, they have to escape from the comfort zone mindset into a realm of possibilitarianism, so to speak. In the words of Archbishop Benson Idahosa, you have to be a possibilitarian, someone who believes that things are possible to be achieved, that you can earn as much as you want to in this world because you have a bunch of gifts and talents and skills, and then you can solve problems in the world in its entirety. And so when we see the demise of Kwame Nkrumah in 1966 in a military coup, or the death of Thomas Sankara, these structures were the structures of Moses, who actually approached Africa in the 1960s to see if they could succeed in helping the people become free. The likes of Thomas Sankara, who was actually taken out by I think that was his not Thomas Sankara, then Patrice Lumumba, who was taken out by his then general Mobutu Sese Sekou, and the likes of Kenneth Kuunda of Zambia, Hastings, Banda of Mali, Senghor of Senegal. We have the likes of Sekou Toure of Guinea. These guys were representative of Moses, who actually felt that they had the call to step up and deliver their people from what they felt was oppression, so to speak. But even after taking the people out into independence, they were really not free indeed. There's a problem. There's a difference between being free and then being free in such a way that you are free from even yourself, so to speak. So in a way, the period with which Africa went through the long haul from slavery up to colonization and now in independence, actually the independence really didn't take the people out of their comfort zone, but they still, the nations of Africa, so to speak, still in a way operate in this comfort zone mentality where the nations or the government aren't really inspired, you know, to kind of like pass that message across to the people, to have this freedom in the mind, where the individual collective critical mass of free people determines the extent of freedom to which the country enjoys, you see. And I see this across the continent, and which actually baffles me to understand that when people actually spend so long a time in the comfort zone mindset, then there's a law which is called the law of crabology, which I learned from a mentor, Obon King, at some point. And it's a story about how crabs in a basket end up leading to their collective demise, so to speak. So in other words, it says that if I cannot have it, no one will have it, you know. And so it's an environment where there's really no hope, or people do not see the possibility to escape. People do not see the possibility to encourage one another to achieve greatness, to achieve success. And greatness and success, I believe, are attributes of the human spirit, despite the races, you see. Because when I go back deep down back into African history, I see a story of a guy called Sundiata Keita. He was called the Lion of Mali. He was a hungering lion who was the king of the Malian Empire at the time. And he actually rose up. There was a revolution in which he had to gather his people of the Mandinka tribe, which was a tribe located within the empire of Mali at the time, to revolt against a king called King Sumanguru of a kingdom called Soso. Because at the time of the 10th to the 12th century, during the decline of the ancient Ghanaian empire at the time, with its capital at Kumbi Sale, there arose a king called King Sumanguru, who actually took advantage of the declining environment around the Ghanaian empire at the time, and actually sought to oppress the tribes which actually made up that Ghanaian empire. But then King Sundiata Keita actually believed that this was wrong, and in his mandate, he felt that he had the call to liberate his people, the Mandinka people, from this tyrant who was called King Sumanguru of the kingdom of Soso. And in 1234, there was a popular battle called the Battle of Kirina, where King Sundiata and King Sumanguru go head to head in a combat. And King Sundiata Keita, the king of Mali, the eventual forerunner of the kingdom of Mali, the really well-known popular kingdom of Mali, which ruled West Africa from the 13th century to about the 17th century, ends up defeating King Sumanguru of the kingdom of Soso, and sets up this constitutional monarchy which the world eventually recognizes, especially when you think about the popular names of King Mansa Musa, who was called the richest man in the world, or probably the richest man in Africa at the time. But my point here is that the capacity for greatness, the capacity for freedom actually has to start from the mind. It actually has to start from believing that it is possible that a people could be free, a people could be people of possibilities, a people could actually contribute to the global evolution of the world positively, rather than really sitting down in a comfort zone, or having a comfort zone mindset that believes that everything has to be done for me, and then I just have to sit back and not challenge myself to get better, to grow better, and all that. So I believe this is where Africa is, and the way out of this has to be, in my opinion, I believe it has to be at the level of the individual. The individual African has to find a way of working on himself and believing in himself or herself that it's possible to change the world. And when we develop this critical mass of possibilitarians, then I believe that somehow the government will be able to catch up, and then hopefully we can impact this world better, because the world actually needs the originality of the African mind. the originality of the African mind is that missing piece in the world today, which actually the world needs to create this global flavor, fragrance of a totalized humanity, so to speak. And so we have to stand up and start believing in ourselves that it's possible to change the world, impact the world. We have to learn out. We have to go out and learn new skills, unlearn most of the negative messages or the negative things which we learned while growing up, and then really come to a place where we believe that it's possible to impact the world positively. Despite the governments, which actually annoy us most of the time, we always feel that our governments are crap, our governments are sold out, our governments are irresponsible. But, you know, at some point, I always try to remind you guys of what the President J.F. Kennedy told to the Americans, that ask not what your government can do for you, but ask what you can do for your government. Ask not what your country can do for you, but ask what you can do for your country. That's a shift of a mindset from a comfort zone mindset to a mindset of possibilitarianism. And hopefully, I believe that slowly we are going to have this mindset erupt in the next generation, and even in this our generation, and try to set up things, positive structures for the next generation to follow in suit. I'll see you guys in the next one, guys. Shalom.